Hello and welcome to our online patient meeting. It's 6 p.m. UK time, therefore this time to start our live event. I am your host Caroline as always, and it's good to be back. And please just let me know you can hear me loud and clear, and that you can also see Dr. Jose. Hi, Dr. Jose, can you hear me as well and all is okay?
Hi, Caroline. Yeah, I can hear you perfect.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It's good to have you back with us. This is your second live event with us. So I'm really, really happy to have you back. So, and of course, you have prepared another topic and definitely interesting topic. So, plenty of information you will find out today, I'm sure. But before that, let me just remind you that all the Stronger Together events are brought to you thanks to our ambassadors and partners. You can see all of them right here. As always, I need to thank them for their constant support. And some of them already had a chance to present their topics. Some of them will still have a chance to present them. So stay tuned. And again, let me thank them for their um, assistance, for their supports. And well, today we do have a very interesting topic, as I've mentioned. It is embryo quality and PGT-A, and our top expert is José Luis de Pablo Franco, who is IVF Laboratory Director at Fertility Madrid and Art Vitoria. And of course, we will simply start with an introduction and short presentation from Jose, and then we will go for the most common questions. But after that, remember, this will be your opportunity to ask your questions. So you need to type those in the chat section so that Jose can help you out with them. So don't miss that opportunity and just simply go ahead and type those questions in. This is being recorded. So remember, if you have any issues with connection, anything at all, you will have a chance to rewatch it as well. And that is it from me at this point. Jose, are you ready to begin with the introduction and presentation?
Okay, thank you very much, Caroline, for all your
Excellent.
help. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody, from the Basque Country this time, and thank you for being here today to learn a little bit more, about two topics: is embryo quality and PGT-A. PGT-A means pre-implantation genetic testing for aneuploidies. Okay, how the chromosomes are. So, like the last time, I like to start with an introduction with a few slides, so this way you can see it more clearly, or you can learn more about these two topics. Okay, and then we'll start with the questions. So let's start with embryo quality. As you can see here, this is a beautiful embryo. Almost, I took almost all the pictures that you're gonna see in the slides, and this is one from one beautiful embryo, like I said, a grade A embryo, a good quality embryo, and this is from day 1 to day 5. In the first day 0 is when we put the gametes together, the sperm and the oocytes, with conventional IVF or with the microinjection, the ICSI. And then day 1 we check the fertility day. Okay, we check the fertilization of that oocyte. We want to see which ones are well fertilized. So with those ones is the ones that we're going to check their development, like this one over here. And okay, you see that they divided into cells. What we want to see on day 2 of embryo development is a 4-cell stage embryo. What we want to see on day 3 is 8 to 10 cells. The day 4 is the day that we call morula. That is this that you can see here. I don't know if you can. Do you see the? Well, there's the 5th picture. Is the morula stage. This is it doesn't give us too much information, so we don't really take this one too much into account. And then the last one is the stage called the Blastocyst stage. And what it does here is the blastocyst, and you can see it in this picture over here. The blastocyst collapses and then expands, collapses, expands, and these together with some enzymes, what it does is it wants to get rid of the zona pellucida. The zona pellucida is the layer that protects the embryo during these days. But at the end, he needs to get rid of it, you know, and it makes a hole. And you can see in the last picture that the blastocyst tries to, you know, to come out from that zona pellucida. Okay, I want to see this one first. Okay, what we see in I want to differentiate between day 3 or day 5 embryo quality. And if we talk about day 3, we see different features. We see the number of cells. We see the symmetry of those cells, either even or uneven. We see if they have one nucleus or more per cell. We like to have just one nucleus per cell. And then another feature could be the fragmentation. Okay, the fragmentation occurs when a cell divides on 2 cells. The cell leaves part of that cytoplasm outside, and if you have a lot of this cytoplasm outside, these harm the embryo. You know, it's like it doesn't let the embryo develop properly. Okay. And so these are the features that we take into account on day 3. If we talking about day 5, the blastocyst stage, we have 2 parts to differentiate, okay, to grade the embryo. The first one is the inner cell mass. The inner cell mass is the one that you see here is rounded. Okay, we need to have it has to be about this size. It's a cumulus of compacted cells. And the inner cell mass is going to be the embryo in the future. Okay, it's going to be the future embryo. And then we have to talk about the rest of the cells that you see there. You have to imagine the blastocyst as a balloon. Okay, so the inner cell layer, it has to be, or it has to have a lot of cells, even cells, you know, and so it has to be like a B panel, you know. So if depending on these 2 parts, you're going to be able to grade the embryos or in A, B, C, or D. Okay, and this one over here is a girl running in Bilbao already. Okay, this is a beautiful picture of a blastocyst. I wish all of them were like this. Okay. Next slide, I wanted to show you the different grades that we can have. Grade A and B are the best embryos for transfer, and grade A is the one that I showed you in the first slide. Grade B, you can see that it has a little bit more fragmentation, and if you take a look at the blastocyst, you see that the inner cell mass is not that big, and the trophectoderm maybe doesn't have as many cells as grade A. Then if you take a look at grade C, you still see more fragmentation, and the blastocyst here in this picture, you can see degenerate cells in the inner cell mass, which is not a good thing for the blastocyst for the next development. And grade D, these embryos, we don't really use them for anything, and if you're talking about day 3 embryo, you cannot really differentiate between cells and fragmentation. And if you see the blastocyst, you cannot differentiate the inner cell mass and the trophectoderm. It doesn't exist, the B panel that we talked about. Okay, and what we do in our case is we use a technology called the time lapse. Maybe you have heard about. And what this incubator does is that it takes a picture every 5 minutes of every embryo. So that means that we don't need to take the embryos out of the incubator to check them under microscope. And so this way, the conditions are always stable. Conditions, I'm talking about temperature, I'm talking about CO2, O2. So that's good for embryo development. And we also have a lot of information to use to try to select the best embryo for transfer, the embryo with the best chance to implant with that information. But still, we're talking about morphology, okay? Just morphology. How is the embryo from the outside? This is the last slide about embryo quality, and I wanted to show you this graph where you can see the fertility rates and the miscarriage rates. You see, when you're on your 40s, the possibility for pregnancy is going down so fast, and the possibility for miscarriage is going up really quick. So if we're talking about morphology, from the morphology point of view, if we have a grade A blastocyst when you're 30 and you have a grade A blastocyst when you are 42, the pregnancy rates are not the same. Why? Because the morphology is the same, but we don't know about the inside of that blastocyst. We don't know what's going on inside. And this is how I introduce the next topic, which is the pre-implantation genetic testing for aneuploidies. We're gonna see if the machinery of that embryos are in good condition, how the chromosomes are. Because, like I said, if you take into account the morphology, can be grade A, but we don't know the inside of those embryos, okay? So this is the technique that we use to see how the embryos are. I wish this technique could transform the abnormal embryos in normal embryos. I wish it could do that, but it couldn't do it right now. Maybe in the future for sure, but right now the only thing we can do is to check the embryos that we have from that cycle, to check them to see their chromosomes. Okay, if we talk about indication for Pgta, we could say that we can use it in women that have 2, 3 or more miscarriages. We have one indication, implantation failure, which means that they have had like 4 or 5 transfer with good quality embryos and they didn't get pregnant. So let's see what's going on. Let's see what happens with those embryos. Maternal age, when you are on your from the age of 39, 40, it's like a good indication, because like I showed you in the graph, you have a lot of possibilities for miscarriaging. So and abnormal fish is a technique that we use for sperm, and we see the chromosomes of that sperm, part of the chromosomes. And if you have the result of an abnormal fish, could be an indication for Pgta. And then other way that we use the Pgt is for monogenic diseases. That's just because the M, monogenic diseases like Steiner, Duchenne, Fragile, Huntington. What we do here is to analyze the embryos that we have to read offspring from the disease that their parents have. Okay, so this is a really good technique for these cases. This is me performing day 3 biopsy. This is what we do, or what we used to do to biopsy our embryos on day 3, what we had to do is to choose the cell that we wanted to take out. We really like to see that they have one nucleus in that cell. So when we choose that cell, what we do is we make a hole with laser and we take that cell out. You can see in one of the pictures, you can see the nucleus inside the cell. In this case, I took 2 cells because in this case, what we did is one cell was for Pgta and one cell was for Pgtm. Okay, the last slide that we saw, because sometimes we can do both. Okay, sometimes maybe if the patient is on their 40s and he has that monogenic disease, we can analyze the embryos for that disease, and after that we're going to see the chromosomes also. Okay, so we can do both at the same time. And this is the biopsy on day 5. This is not the entire blastocyst, okay? This is just part of it, but I couldn't put it in one picture. So what we do here is to make another hole with the laser, so we can wait until the trophectoderm comes out a little bit. And what we do is aspirate one cell, then we continue aspirating. And what we do is to make like 2 pulses of laser to make the blastocyst shrink. So when it is shrinking, it's easier for us to take more cells. We want to take about 6 or 8 cells from that blastocyst. And then what we do is we vitrify that embryo, that blastocyst, and we send those cells to our genetic lab, and we wait more or less like 1 week for the results of the genetic study. And the last one is just electronic microscopy from a day 3 embryo and a blastocyst embryo. And this is the wound that we make to them when we use the laser. It's not really a wound because, like I said in the first slide, the blastocyst wants to get rid of the zona pellucida. So with this hole, we can help them to come out. So, but this is I love these pictures, and I wanted just to show you about them. Okay, so this is the end of my introduction, and Caroline, we can start with the questions you want.
Thank you so much for that very interesting introduction with your presentation, and of course all the details you have already provided, and definitely interesting to see the photos as well. Thank you for that. And well, it is time for our first we will go with the most common questions, and after that, of course, there will be time for your questions. So the first question is, so do you prefer day 3 or a day 5 embryo for transfer?
Okay, we used to transfer embryos on day 2, on day 3, but we're not doing it anymore. You know, we have been doing transfer on day 5 for, I don't know, 8 years maybe already. And why? Because on day 3, you're going to have more embryos, more good quality embryos, but not all of them are going to reach the blastocyst stage, the day 5. So what you have to think right now, because we have better laboratories, we have to have better laboratories. The embryos, I mean, the culture media is better now. The conditions of our labs are better. The incubators are better. So we really trust in our labs right now. So we're not scared about letting them grow to the blastocyst stage, you know, that it could happen in the past. So if one embryo from day 3, one good quality embryo on day 3 cannot reach or doesn't reach the blastocyst stage, if we had transferred that embryo, it would have not implanted, or 90% it would have not implanted. Okay, so definitely I prefer day 5 because, you know, they have to reach that day. So if this is not a good embryo, it's not going to reach that day. and the embryos that reach the blastocyst stage have better pregnancy rates.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much for answering with details to this first question. Let's have a look at the next one. So, what results do you obtain after PGT-A?
Okay, and this is a really good question. This is something that we need to explain to our patients when we have our first contact. If the proposal is to perform an IVF with a PGT-A, we have to explain the results that we're going to have. We're going to have three kind of results. We have a white one, black one, or gray one. White one is that we're going to have euploid or normal embryos. The black one is the abnormal or aneuploid embryos, and the gray one is something called mosaicism. Okay, what does it mean? This means that, like I said, when we biopsy a day 5 embryo, a day 5 blastocyst, what we do is we like to take like 6 to 8 cells. So when we analyze those cells, some of them are going to be euploid and some of them are going to be aneuploid. Okay, so these embryos are not the first choice for transfer, of course. We have to transfer first our euploid embryos. But in the case that if you don't have anything else and the only embryo that you have is a mosaic embryo, we need genetic counseling. Okay, we have to see how many chromosomes are involved, which chromosomes are involved, and what's the percentage of normal or an abnormal cells. So we have to take a lot of possibilities into account and see what's the best option. Maybe our recommendation is not for transfer because it has too many things. But of course the last decision is on the patients. But thank goodness that this occurs very rarely. But it's something that we need to explain to our patients. Because we are saying, okay, we're going to perform a PGT-A, so this way we are going to transfer only the euploid embryo, so your pregnancy rates are going to be really high. But what happens if you biopsy 3 embryos, 2 are abnormal, and 1 is a mosaic embryo? Okay, they need to know this, because we don't like to have mosaic embryos, of course, because it's something difficult to explain, it's something difficult to make a decision of what to do with that.
Okay, excellent. Again, thank you so much for this question and your answer to that. So how many PGT-A cycles do you recommend?
Well, this is a kind of difficult question to answer, but it's every patient is different, so you have to see so many things. You have to see if he have done more cycles, the quality of the embryos that they had in those cycles. If you perform PGT-A, what's the results of that PGT-A? The maternal age. You have to take into account too many things. And but it comes to my mind one good example for that, and is a good friend of mine. She got pregnant when she was 38, and she had the baby when she was 38. And then she tried. They tried themselves, and she had a miscarriage, 2 miscarriages after that. And so she came to see me when she was 40 and a half. And okay, we talked about a lot of things, and so we decided to do an IVF with PGT-A because of the miscarriages and because she was 40, 40 and a half. So we decided that, and what we do is we did 4 cycles, 15 embryos all of them abnormal. It was like 2 years ago I had a baby, but now 2 years later, 15 embryos were aneuploid. So we sat down and we talked for a long time, and I say, okay, maybe it's time to stop. Maybe it's time to think about other things, forget about fertility and enjoy with your baby, because she was losing time with these 2 years of cycles. You're always thinking about having a new baby, and it was like, okay, stop and think about another thing. And okay, and she stopped, and then she had another miscarriage, natural miscarriage. So she came a year after, so when she was 42, almost and a half, and she said, hey, Jose, I want to try it again. And I say, are you sure? You've been through so many cycles. Okay, and she wanted to do it again. So we had like, I don't know, 14, 16 more embryos to analyze. All of them were abnormal. So this is a rare case. We don't really see this because at the end it's too much money and too much, like psychologically it's too hard. And but she wanted to do it and she needed to do it. So at the end of that, I say, okay, now we stop for sure. We're not going to make any more cycles. Okay, so now she stopped like 4 or 5 months, and he thought about other possibilities that we talked about, oocyte donation, and now he's. She's waiting for embryo transfer with oocytes from a donor, and let's see what happens. But it was a good example about the topics that we're talking today, because I would say that 20 out of the 30 embryos that we analyzed were grade A. So the embryos were beautiful, but the problem was the machinery that we talked about, that it wasn't in a good condition, and that's why she didn't get pregnant, or she had the miscarriages.
All right. Thank you so much, Jose, for answering this question. Of course, well, for that, sharing this story, yes, because definitely it's something to remember, yeah, and look out for.
Of course.
Thank you so much. All right, let's have a look. Next question is, so what are the differences between day 3 and the day 5 biopsy?
Well, the difference is I'll show you on the slides, and you could see more or less the differences. But the thing is, the most important differences between day 3 or day 5 is day 3 we take out one cell from an embryo, from an 8-cell embryo, more or less. And in the blastocyst, we take like 6 to 8 cells from 200 to 50 cells blastocyst. So the first thing is that the volume that you are removing from those embryos is much higher on day 3. So that could harm the embryo and could harm their development, or their development to reach the blastocyst stage. Then, of course, you have more cells, so you have more DNA to analyze, so the results are more reliable, And the last one, I would say that on day 3 you're gonna have more embryos for biopsy, because, like I say, some of them are not going to reach the blastocyst stage. So if the patient pay per embryo biopsy, you're gonna pay less when you perform the biopsy on day 5, because you're gonna have less embryo, and those embryos are better embryos than those on day 3.
All right, excellent again. Thank you so much for answering. Next question and last one from our most common questions is this: is Pgta done on fresh or frozen cycle? How long we need to wait for results?
Okay, I'm going to start with the second one, and how long we need to wait for results. Normally, it takes like 1 week. Like I say, we biopsy the blastocyst, we vitrify, we freeze the blastocyst, and then we have to wait around 1 week, sometimes less than that, but more or less we tell our patients that we're going to have to wait for we're going to have to wait 1 week for the result. Okay, and after that, after we have the result, we have to prepare the endometrium if they want to do it in the next cycle, and we have to prepare the endometrium, and we warm that embryo, and we put it into the uterus. Okay, and in the first one, of course, I prefer to do it on a fresh cycle. Sometimes we have to do it because maybe we don't have a result from that first biopsy, and we have to rebiopsy that embryo, and we don't really like to do that, because if it's frozen, you have to warm that embryo, you have to perform the biopsy again, and you have to vitrify it again. So it's too much for that. It's not a good thing to do it. And for sure, I prefer fresh. But what we do is, like I said, you go to the blastocyst stage, you biopsy that embryo, then you vitrify the embryo, and then you wait for that result, the week, that we talked about. And just in cases that we didn't get a good result, or they couldn't analyze those cells for whatever reason, that's when we have to perform the biopsy on a frozen cycle, or in a frozen embryo.
Perfect. Once again, thank you so much for answering this question, but also all the previous one. And well, it is time for our patients' question. There are a few ready, so we will be able to get to them. But anyone, if you have any questions, of course, now it is time for you to type those in. Let's start with the very first question. Jose, ready for it?
I'm ready.
Excellent. So the question is, so what about hatch blastocyst CC quality? Is it worth it?
Good question from Chucky. Well, the good thing to do here is to have, of course, grade A or grade C. Grade A or grade B blastocysts to biopsy. But in case you have a hatched blastocyst, I think you mean that it got rid of the zona pellucida totally. It's not easy to biopsy these ones, because the zona pellucida always helps you to perform the biopsy. But is it worthy? I don't know. Depending on the cycle, if you have a lot of grade A or grade B blastocysts, I don't know. I think if you see any possibility for that blastocyst to have a good result, and it can implant in the future, I think it could be a good thing to validate. But always depending on what you have. If you have a lot of good quality embryos, maybe, because like I said, this is not a really easy blastocyst to biopsy.
All right, understood. Of course, thank you so much for your question, very first one, and of course for your help with this. And let's have a look. Next question. Do you always have to have male and female karyotyping results before doing IVF with PGS?
Yeah, that's it. That's the best thing to do it. The karyotype is good to have it first, because you do this. You need the karyotyping before the PGS, because you can find something that you need to study, or maybe if you are young and your karyotype is normal, we don't need to perform a Pgta, but yeah, it's always needed before the PGS. Is the right way to do it.
All right, again, thank you so much for your question and for your assistance and answer to that. Okay, let's have a look. There is another question here. I have 5 blastocysts frozen, but I didn't do Pgta. I am 40. What are my chances of pregnancy?
Okay, hello, Amy. I don't know if you have performed a transfer yet or not, but I mean, sometimes it's difficult to answer this kind of questions. No? I mean, when you're 40, I would say your chances for pregnancy, if you don't analyze the embryos, would be around 30%, 25, 30%, okay, of pregnancy rate. We're taking into account all the embryos that we have. Okay, this is statistically talking. We have to take the all the blastocysts with patients on their 40s. So if you don't realize the Pgta, so you don't know if they're euploid or aneuploid, you transfer all of them, and so the aneuploid ones are not going to implant, or if they implant, they're going to finish in a miscarriage, and only the euploid ones are going to implant. Okay, so with this, I want to say that your chance of pregnancy would be around 30%. If you analyze those embryos, if you transfer one euploid embryo, the pregnancy rate, we're talking about 60 or 70% of pregnancy rate. But you have to have that embryo, okay? Because we can analyze those 5 embryos, and I'm telling you about 60% of pregnancy rate. But if those 5 embryos are not euploid, we're not going to transfer anything, so your possibilities are zero, okay? But if you asking me if I recommend you to do a Pgta right now, I would say try at least 2 or 3 blastocysts and see what happens, and then maybe with the rest you can try the Pgta. Okay, but right now if they're frozen, like I said, I don't like to warm again the embryo, then vitrify again the embryo, and then warm again, like twice. And so I would say that try maybe 2 or 3 and see what happens, and then if you with the rest you can think about performing Pgta.
All right, excellent. Thank you once more for that. And there is a follow-up from Amy. Okay, so does Pgta guarantees pregnancy? Is it worth it?
The answer is no, because there are a lot of things. There are more things that we don't really know about. It's not. I mean, the chromosomes of the embryo is a really big part of the chance to get a pregnancy, but there are more things that we don't know about. Is it worth it? Like I said, I like to use this technique when you have an indication for that. So if you're 32, if you're 35, I won't propose you a Pgta, because the percentage of euploid embryos is high, or is higher than the aneuploid embryos. And so the thing is, like I said, if you analyze the embryos and you have euploid embryos, the chance to get pregnant is about 60-70%. So it's a really good chance to get pregnant. But is it worth it? Like I say, depending on your case, okay? Depending on your age, depending on, you're Amy. Okay, I see it now. So you're 40. And like I say, it doesn't guarantee you a pregnancy, and it could be worth it in the future, okay? Try, like I said, first with 2 or 3 of those embryos, and then we'll see in the future, or you'll see in the future, or you talk to your clinician in the future about what to do with the rest of it.
All right, excellent. Thank you once more for that. And of course, there is a thank you from Amy as well. Excellent. Okay, let's have a look. Next question is also ready. Are there any risks involved in Pgta, such as harming the embryo or embryo development?
Nirangela, I don't know if I'm saying right your name, but it's a really good question, because, of course, it's an invasive technique. So I'm not worried at all about the technique, about doing the Pgta, about doing the biopsy. I'm not really worried about that, but still is a invasive technique. Okay, so you the risk for that is that that blastocyst can be so sensitive that cannot, resist that biopsy that I show you, and because after that you have to vitrify the embryos, they have to warm, so they have to survive after that. The thing is that the blastocysts are really strong, and they resist a lot. That's right. But of course, it's still the chance of harming that embryo because it's an invasive technique. But like I said, if you have done a lot of biopsies, this is nothing that I really worry about. Okay, but it's a good question because it's an invasive technique. So, in sometimes depending on the maternal age, but if you are on your 39s, your 40s, and you only have one embryo, sometimes we can talk about it. And we thought that we were going to perform a Pgta, but at the end we only have one blastocyst or one embryo that reached the blastocyst stage. Maybe we can think about just transferring and see what happens. I'm not saying this if you're 43, 44, because the risk for a neuploid is too high. But if you're 39, 40, and you only have one, because of this risk, or because this embryo is too sensitive for this biopsy, maybe you can think about just transferring and see what happens.
Okay, again, thank you for that question and your answer to this as well. All right, so next question is, so are the chances of pregnancy increased with really good morphology and a Pgta normal embryo?
Hi, Stephanie. Of course. The first thing I want to say here is that we only we only perform the biopsy on embryos that have a chance to implant. Okay, bad quality embryos like some Cs or Ds, we don't perform the biopsy on those. Okay, so is related to good morphology to Pgta, and of course you have more chances if your embryo is a grade A and you biopsy that embryo and your result is an euploid or normal embryo. Of course your chances are could be better, but the thing is that if you have the result of an euploid embryo, means that you have a lot of chances to get pregnant. Okay, but of course the morphology, and we have to take into account the morphology. Of course, if we have 2 or 3 euploid embryos, normal embryos, I'm going to transfer first the best quality embryo. Okay.
All right. Again, thank you for your question and your help with this. All right, next question is, so what's the average of healthy chromosomal blastocysts for every 10 Pgta embryo tested?
This is Amy related to maternal age. Okay, it's not the same to analyze 10 embryos from 35 women than 10 embryos from a woman on their 40s. Okay, so I would say, like in your case, you are 40. I would say that more or less 3-4 of your embryos are going to be euploid, are going to be normal. The rest are going to be euploid, aneuploid. Okay, if you are in your 35, I would say it's about 5-6 are going to be euploid, and the rest are going to be aneuploid. So this always depends on the maternal age, or maybe something else like a normal fish, the technique that we perform on the sperm that I told you about, or or maybe sperm fragmentation, but basically on the maternal age.
All right, excellent. Okay, and there's answer from Amy. Good news. Thank you. Thanks so much then. Right, and let's have a look. Of course, there is another question ready. So, is a day 6 blastocyst good? I mean, 6-day blastocyst, right?
Day six blastocyst is correct to say that. Hello, Pamela. Well, of course, it's good. We have to differentiate here. If we are not talking about Pgta, we're just talking about morphology. We normally like to have embryos on day 5. It doesn't mean that on day 6 are worse embryos, not, because sometimes the embryos need a little bit more times. This depending also on the time of we perform the IVF, the conventional IVF, or the microinjection, the ICSI, okay? But it doesn't really mean that if you have a blastocyst on day 6 is worse than the one that you have on day 5, okay? But sometimes we're not sure about the quality of that embryo, of that blastocyst on day 5, so we leave them to day 6, and even sometimes we leave them until day 7. Okay, in a few cases, but sometimes we do that in cases that we don't have anything else. So it looks like maybe sometimes the embryos needs like one more day to reach a good quality blastocyst, but it depends of the cycle. Okay, like I said, I prefer to have blastocysts on day 5, and then the ones that I have in this cycle on day 6 could be, like worse, but this doesn't mean that you can get pregnant with blastocysts from day 6. Okay, I don't know if I was clear about this or not, Pamela.
I believe all is good, but of course, if you would like to have a follow-up, you know what to do. Just type it in, of course. Thank you so much. All right, and next question, a bit longer one, so let's have a look at it, okay? So what portion of the biopsies embryos should you expect as you expect as no result? About 20-30% of my embryos came back as no result. The embryologist has looked at those embryos and they have said the out cell mass was poor quality with grade C for most of the embryos with no results. What could be other reasons for no results?
Well, okay, yeah. Well, and the thing is that, like I said, we prefer to have good quality embryos to biopsy, but it's really the reason that not having a result. The reason is to have a grade C embryos. I'm not really sure about that. I mean, 20-30% of your embryos with no results, I think is too high. I would say 5-10 maximum percent with no results, depending on the quality of the embryos. Yeah, I'm not saying that. I mean, this is a really important thing, the morphology and the quality of the embryos. But I'm not sure. I mean, I think it's just like I think it's too high, that percentage, and I don't know. I'm not sure if that could be because they're grade C, because the inner cell mass, or you say the out cell mass, you mean like the trophectoderm, I think, that we talk about. The trophectoderm is the B panel that we talk about, because we have to take only cells from the B panel, never from the inner cell mass, okay, because the inner cell mass is going to become the future embryo. So we have to take cells from the trophectoderm, I think is what you're saying here, the out cell mass, okay. Okay, I mean, I'm not saying this is not possible, of course, because the morphology is so important. But I think I think the percentage could be a little bit higher. Maybe if it's that bad quality trophectoderm, maybe you should not biopsy those embryos. Okay, maybe you have to think and say, okay, maybe the quality is not that good, to take 6 or 8 cells to analyze, and I don't want to biopsy these ones.
Again, thank you so much for your question and, of course, your help with this. And the question, follow-up, just came up here. Would you transfer them if not biopsy?
What's the results of the, I don't know, Kenya, how many embryos did they analyze and what was the result of them? Because if you have 10 embryos and you're saying 20, 30%, so 7 embryos, you have the result for 7 embryos, and all of them are aneuploid, of course, I would say 3 cycles finally got 3 normal. So how many embryos did they analyze? About 20 embryos. Only 3 euploid embryos, and the rest, I would say not to transfer for those, because you have too many aneuploid embryos, and if they are not good quality, like the embryologist said, and you're like C, trophectoderm is a grade C, and they biopsy that trophectoderm and they didn't get the result, maybe it's something wrong with those cells. So my recommendation would be not to transfer those embryos without the analysis, and I wouldn't do the biopsy again in those blastocysts because of their morphology. Okay, because you're going to harm them a lot, and you are not going to be able to transfer them for sure.
Okay, thank you for that advice, of course, and of course there's a thank you from Kaya as well. Okay, and let's have a look. There's another question ready for you, so just let me go back. All right, so another question: is there any evidence that you embryos may correct themselves once transferred? I understand there is some evidence from the USA.
I mean, the thing is that when we perform a PGT-A is not to transfer the aneuploid embryos, because, I mean, why are we doing the PGT-A? We're performing it just to know about our embryos. So we discard the aneuploid ones and we only transfer the euploid ones. So there is some evidence from the US. I would say there's some evidence when we talk about mosaic embryos, okay? Remember the gray result that we can have, and you have aneuploid cells and euploid cells, and of course there is evidence that when you transfer those embryos, maybe. I mean, the thing here is that the most of the rest of the cells of that blastocyst need to be euploid. So that way, when you transfer that embryo, you're gonna get. I mean, you can get pregnant for sure. If you have a 100% aneuploid embryos and you transfer them, of course, this is biology, and you never. I mean, you cannot say always this is 100%. But I would say if you transfer an aneuploid embryos, that you're not gonna get pregnant, or you're gonna suffer a miscarriage. Okay, so I would say that evidence should be more for mosaic embryos. Maybe they transfer aneuploid embryos because they didn't have anything else, and the patient wanted to transfer. We don't do that. I mean, like I said, if we perform the PGT-A, we don't transfer aneuploid embryos, but. So we don't really have too many cases of that. That's true, but I would say you're not going to get pregnant with aneuploid embryos, or have a miscarriage, like I said.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much once more for this question as well as your help with this. And next question, 3 parts actually of it. I have day 6 frozen embryo, 1, 3 BC, 3 CC, and 4 BC. Would you recommend I use these embryos? And if so, which ones? I am 49.
My question is, did you transfer some embryo before? And And
there is like this follow-up.
7
Sorry.
ordinary from donor eggs from my sister. Okay, we cannot do this here. There's anonymous here, and we cannot do this. Just to mention, 4 were PGT, 3 came back good, and 1 unemployed. So they perform Pgta with embryos from your sister. From eggs from your sister. 3 came back good and 1 unemployed. The 3 remaining ones, they say they can't. I'm sorry. I have the 3 remaining ones. They say they can't Pgta. The last part.
One more. Yes,
I transfer yes, did not attach. Okay, just one. The one out of these 3 employed that you have, right? And the 3 remaining ones, they say they can't perform the Pgta. I guess because of the morphology, of the quality of those embryos. So, and your question was.
Yes, of course. Let me go back to the first one. Sorry, just give me a minute as well. Okay, so which ones? Yeah. So
okay. This is good.
Which ones to
3 BB, 3 CC, and 4 BC. Maybe this is a different grading that we have here in Spain, because 3 BC, 3 CC, and 4 BC is the number. I don't understand the number that they put at the beginning, but for sure I will start with a BC, and I guess this BC is the grade for the inner cell mass and the trophoectoderm, I'm sure, and I will start with a BC, and I guess 3 BC is better than 4 BC, so I will start with that one. They're not 2 really good quality embryos. I don't know how old was your sister, but there's another question. Sorry, you didn't answer.
This is from previous patient, so we will go
okay,
back.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, in this case, I don't know how old was 34. Okay, your sister was 34, and I only have 3. Well, I mean, if they are employed, just try with them. I mean, even though they have no really good quality, just try them because they are employed. So of course, start with the BC, and then I guess the CC, and then the 4 BC. I think that would be the order of those ones. Okay, but if they're employed, of course, just try.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much for providing the details, of course, and your recommendation to this one. Okay, let me have a look. There are like 2 questions left, so I believe. So if you have any left, go ahead and type those in. If not, we will be finishing slowly. But the question is right here. I have had 2 Pgta embryos transferred. One failed to implant. Another resulted in a chemical pregnancy. We are going to have another cycle with Pgta. Would it be appropriate to transfer 2 Pgta embryos and age 42?
Okay, yeah. So you're trying with your own oocytes, right? And the answer for that is that, of course, you have to perform a Pgta again of your embryos, and I would say that here I would not recommend to transfer 2 euploid embryos at the same time. Okay, we don't like that. We prefer to transfer once on a time. Okay, why? Because you are 42 and maybe you're look very well, and now in our 40s we look really well. We're just like the last 30s. But the thing is, the biology, your body is always better to have only a pregnancy, with just 1 embryo than a pregnancy with 2 embryos. It's much better for. Okay, so that's even worse. So it's. I mean, you're not going to. I mean, the thing is, you're going to would say, I don't know what, I mean, you're going to have more risk for that pregnancy, okay? You're going to increase the risk of that pregnancy, transferring two. And if you have two two euploid embryos, just transfer one and then keep the other one, like you did in the last cycle, okay? Because it's always better to have a pregnancy with just one embryo. Don't doubt it, okay? I would say that for sure.
All right, excellent. Again, thank you so much for this. And of course, there's a thank you from Kea as well. Okay, and sorry, there is another follow-up from Kea. You didn't answer what other reasons could there be for no result for Pgta biopsied embryos?
Okay, well, because we're just with PGT-A, what we are doing is analyzing the embryo. Okay, the 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 inside, the chromosomes is what we do with the PGT-A. What are the other reasons? Which, I mean, there is the endometrium. We have to have a receptive endometrium. The embryo needs to, to be in contact with that endometrium, needs to talk to it and see if the endometrium let the embryo implant there. So this is the part, the apposition and the implantation condition. We don't really know about it sometimes. I mean, you can prepare the endometrium as well as you can. You can take whatever you have to take to make it more receptive. But still, once we transfer the embryo inside the uterus, there still are things that we don't really know. Okay, so that could be a reason. Or even though the embryo, even though it is a euploid embryo, it's like it collapsed for whatever reason, and it get blocked, so it can't implant into the uterus. Okay, but the most important other reasons would be, the dialogue between the embryo and the endometrium.
All right, again, thank you so much for that. And let's have a look because, yeah, sorry, there is a follow-up. So, but by no result, I mean the biopsy result was an aneuploidy, euploidy, and no result. This is the biopsy result itself. Okay. Okay, sorry, there's one more. So the biopsy did not produce, okay, the result.
By no result, show me the first one, please, Caroline.
Sure.
Okay,
Right.
by no result, I mean the biopsy result was aneuploidy, and okay. So what is the reason? Okay, that's like I say, white, black, and gray, and there is another one that, like this one here, this with no result. What's the reason for that? Okay, the reason for that could be, like we talk, I think, with some other patient here, is the morphology, the quality of those embryos could be one reason. Maybe the reason is that we didn't perform the biopsy well, or we have to put those cells inside a small tube, and this is something, and we have to do it under the microscope, and sometimes we don't do it properly, or maybe for whatever reason that DNA doesn't comes out when you have to analyze them with the technique that we use for that. And for whatever reason, the DNA doesn't come out from the nucleus, and sometimes it's something inherent of the technique. Okay, but the thing is not to have too many no result embryos.
All right, excellent. Thank you for clarification to this question, and of course for your help with it as well. All right, and there are like a few questions more, so let's have a look. This is the next one. Hello again, I'm 38 and using donor eggs. My husband had a fragmentation test and had sperm sorting as he was 29% damaged. We had 2 embryos transferred 2nd March, BL323 and BL422. I got pregnant with one but then miscarried at 9 weeks pregnant. Is the damaged sperm percentage bad and was the grading of the embryos good? Thank you.
Is the damaged sperm percentage bad? I don't know. What's the grading of the embryos? I would say that, of course, the fragmentation test is important here if it's wrong, of course. And so the thing is, the problem here is that we use different percentages when we talk about fragmentation, depending on the technique that we are using and depending on sometimes on the country, And they say it was 29% damage. Is not that bad, but I don't know what's the, like the cat for that, for considering normal or abnormal sperm when we talk about fragmentation. Of course, if you have if your fragmentation is damaged, I think the Pgta could be a good thing to do. Sometimes we use like a platform to put the sperm on it, and the sperm that comes out from the other side of this platform is the one that is not fragmented. So there are like different ways to treat this fragmentation, but the thing is, I don't know if the 29% here is considered bad or not. And the blastocyst, like I say, I'm not really sure about 323 or 422 what that means, because we're not following this grading, and it's difficult to say. And but you're 38, so you are about to think about Pgta. So if your fragmentation is not good, and your blastocyst, I don't know what they tell you, if they tell you that they were good or not. Maybe it could be a good option to take. I mean, option to perform a Pgta in those embryos.
And again, thanks so much for this explanation. And well, of course, sorry.
And even more, I'm sorry, Caroline, and even more, Pamela, if you already have had a miscarriage, So for sure, in the next cycle, I will try a Pgta,
All right, the patient has added that she's doing it in Poland and she would like to. Thank you, of course, as always. Okay, perfect. And let's have a look. There are like 2 questions left, I believe. So, of course, we will be slowly finishing. And let's get to the next one. I am 38. I have 2 recurrent miscarriages and 1 biochemical pregnancy. Should I try IVF without PGS first by picking best morphological embryo, or do PGS from the start?
I would say for sure Pgta. Okay, because I guess this is going to be your first cycle, and you already have 2 recurrent miscarriages, 1 biochemical pregnancy, which is something, okay, that we don't really know what happened there, but you have it, and you are 38. Like I say, you're close to 39, 40, which is a good indication to perform the Pgta. So I will do it for sure. Okay. Just in case that you only have 1 embryo, like I said in one of the questions, only 1 good blastocyst, that's the only blastocyst that you have, you can try it, but you already have had 2 miscarriages. So I will go for the Pgta.
And excellent again. Thank you so much for your question and, of course, for your help with that. And it looks like this was our last question. And, of course, so thank you for all your questions. And, of course, Jose, for your help with all the questions, but also for your presentation, for all the details. As you can see, there are more questions coming up. And, of course, it's always a pleasure to have you with us. So again, thank you so much for joining our initiative, for joining our event tonight. As you can see, more of those thank yous coming up, so you can see all of them. And is there anything you would like to add? Jose, is there anything you would like to add?
Oh no, just I mean to finish, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank for all your question. I hope I was helpful with all of you, and with my presentation. I was just as a resume. I just wanted to say that good morphology embryo is a good thing to have for sure. But depending on the indications that I talked about, sometimes it's not enough with the morphology that we have, and we need to add another technique called Pgta to see the machinery of those embryos and to see if they are working well or not. So the complement of these two are very good, but like I said, if you're 35, I'm not going to propose you a Pgta. Okay, so let's follow the indication for the Pgta, and of course we have to base our transfer or our grading on the morphology of our embryos.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much. And actually, there was one more question.
Okay.
Can we have your email address? So
Yeah, of course.
yeah, if you could just type it in, of course, in the chat section, perhaps. So
Here it
anyone, if
is.
you would like to get in
Okay.
touch with Jose, you can. We will be able to do that. But of course, let me just remind you that also you can use this link. There is an option to ask your question, so Jose will get this message as well. But of course, you can type it in. So that anyone, if you would like to get in touch with Jose and of course receive some more details, I'm sure he will be happy to
Here it
help.
is.
Thank you so much, Jose, for that. So anyone, you can see the email. You can go ahead and use it if you wish as well. And that will be it for today. But of course, remember, we will be back. There is another topic today that we are going to present. It's IVF after 40. So I hope you will be able to join us at 8 p.m. UK time. And well, simply, I'm sure you have some more questions. So go ahead and register if you haven't already. But of course, let me just remind you as well that this has been recorded, therefore you will have a chance to re-watch it. It will be uploaded tomorrow on our YouTube channel as well as myivfanswers.com. And if you would like to stay tuned with all of our upcoming events, you can also find all those on our Facebook page or Instagram. So I can only encourage you to check it out. And well, Jose, thank you so much for joining. I do hope that we will have another opportunity to have another webinar with you. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much. Have a lovely and relaxing evening. And to all of you again, thank you so much for your constant, attendance to our webinars as well. Thank you
Okay.
all.
Thank you
Bye.
very much, Caroline, for your help, and thank you everybody for your questions. Bye bye.
Excellent. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.